You know, you only remember the fun things, the good times you had. The bad times are kind of packed way back. We made our own fun on Okinawa because we didn't even have a movie in a shack to see. And, of course, there was drinking, so we all drank because there's nothing else to do, you know. And we had a gang together, and I don't know if you want to hear this story or not.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And we called ourselves the Ghouls. And we decided to put on a party. So we got one of those big steel vats you've seen them from a kitchen, about that big around, every bit of that deep. And we went behind the bar, and we emptied every bottle that was on the bar into this vat. And the only other thing we had to mix it with was grape juice, and that was called Ghoul Gruel. And we would put signs up all over the island. Now remember, the island's only 60 miles long. And we kept that up for a couple of weeks. And then we finally put the date where it was going to be held. And when everybody came, we seated them, and then everybody in the gang put on a mop head and took a brown mascara around our eyes. And we had a dentist in the unit, and he made us all false teeth that slipped up over our regular teeth. We had fangs coming out of our mouth. And we came in the back way. One guy was carrying dragging a log chain, and everybody that was sitting at the bar, we also had a scrub gown on and rubber gloves. Before we came in, we dipped our rubber gloves in water. And I don't know whether you've ever had that sensation before or not, but we took our hands and went all over their face with this, you know, looking like we did. Then we went into the main room and had 2 candles because they were going to bring in the head ghoul. Well, they brought him in on a gurney, and he was in a wooden box. So we had a big ceremony opening the lid, and when we opened the lid, this guy was laying there smoking a cigarette in the box. Oh God, he could have died so fast.
Oh wow.
Anyway, and in order to get something to drink, they had to go view the body. They passed by the casket. And we served our gruel out of bedpans and urinals. And that, if you could have seen the reaction on some of the people, it was well worth the price of admission to see that. Of course, the urinals and bedpans were sterilized. When they first saw that, but it was good. It was surprisingly very good. Really was.
Good to know.
Were you ever awarded any medals or citations while in the service?
Good conduct.
Good conduct. That's good enough.
I guess they didn't go to your party, I guess.
No, didn't allow it. See, I wasn't there during the attack on Okinawa, but soon afterwards, and they were still flushing Japanese out of the caves on the island. And the Japs had been taken over to the island about 10 years before Pearl Harbor. And they had it well stocked, and they had all their guns in placement, you know, very well done. And that's why they say we lost 45,000 men. It kind of gets to you. You might be interested in that we were living in Quonset huts. Even the hospital was a Quonset hut. And I experienced typhoons. One was on the sea, and the other one was on land. On the sea was very remarkable, I might say. And on land, you know, the Quonset huts are made out of 8 by 10 corrugated tin. And when the wind came with the typhoon, some of the huts, they ripped pieces of the tin off, and you could see them go through the air like a piece of tin foil. They also would picked up the telephone poles, and they went through, thought it was a toothpick.
Wow.
So you had to stay at your station of duty until the typhoon was over. No one was allowed off. Now the GIs over there, they were smart. They went into one of the Okinawan tombs, which was hewn out of the rock there. That's the way where they buried their dead. So they just got a fifth of whiskey and went into one of those tombs and waited until the typhoon was over. But we had to stay on our station. You might be interested in what the Okinawans did with their dead. They would hew these caves out of the side of the hill, and we figured out it was the shape of a uterus. And in it was steps, 3, 4 steps. And when someone died, they would place the body on those steps and close the tomb. And after X number of months, years, or whatever, they would send the oldest virgin of the family into the tomb, and she had to take off the remaining flesh. It's macabre, off of the skeleton. That was her duty. And then the bones were put in like an urn. But that was the way they buried her. Had a big deal over a funeral. The men all wore white robes and big tall black hats. And they would beat the drums and clang the, what do you call those things, cymbals? Made a lot of noise, and fly the fish flag. And that protected them from any evil, particularly the dead person. That was very interesting.
Did you ever come across anybody like historically famous whenever you were down there? Any like famous generals or anything?
No, I didn't want to come across MacArthur.
What did you know about him then?
Well, and there is no one from the South Pacific that would have anything good to say about him. And the time he was fired by President Truman was one of the best things that ever happened. In fact, I was almost ostracized in my neighborhood. I lived in California because they were all civilians, and they had MacArthur built up like a little tin god, you know. And I'm happy as a lark he was fired. They thought that was terrible.